Alright, we are recording. Just needed to quickly prepare one thing, but, yeah. I'm not the happiest with how this final chapter of Star Trek The Motion Picture Novelization is going. I had issues with it, and unfortunately that'll probably make this a somewhat long video. Okay. So it's now they see, they had already seen 20th Century Earth Space Probe. One moment. Yep. Needed to turn a couple things off. But, approaching, it's like, it's Voyager 6 specifically. But it's also, they all recognize it. This is part of the Academy, because Voyager 6, having been the first human-made object to enter a time continuum, although the reason for its sudden disappearance had not been understood at the time. In the movie, I believe it refers to it being a black hole that it falls into. Not really sure why the difference between them. Because at the time, they did not have an understanding of black holes. You need to understand, it would be not necessarily a decade and a half, but close to that, before black holes were confirmed. That's one of the things that the Hubble Space Telescope, launching in 1990, actually confirmed. It was theoretical. It followed from general relativity, but we didn't know for certain. Hubble confirmed it. It's one of those things that for one of the anniversaries of Hubble's launch, because it is described as the most successful science experiment ever, it's one of the things listed for that. Yeah. Okay, so that explains why they had recognized it, and also we get then the speculation here. It re-entered normal space on the far side of the galaxy, said Kirk to Spock. It must have wandered into the gravitational field of the planet you saw. The great machines, they repaired it. More than that, said Spock, they discovered its programming, and being machines themselves, they obeyed. Its 20th century programming would have been very simple, said Decker. Collect all possible data, transmit those findings. Kirk nodded. Learn all that is learnable, return that information to the creator. So it's just kind of explaining that. One issue I have is I'm just confused. Because there's the reference here to the machine planet that did this work. But there was also reference to a planet that had machines on it that attacked V'ger, and V'ger woke up enough to be like, oh, I'm damaged, I'm going to repair that, head off, return, and then pattern the entire planet. So it's like, I interpret that to be the same planet, because both were described as being machine planets, and the one that it patterned, it's like, it only figured out that there was organic life there after, it had already been dead and after it had already started the patterning. So I'm still a little unclear about that. Yeah. But that's just me being like, I could see it being, it was the same planet, that it was repaired somewhat, but then V'ger turned on it, or it being something else. Or being a different planet, but it's still, I'm not really sure. And there's also, this doesn't explain how it has any knowledge of Earth. How does V'ger know it needs to get back to Earth, the solar system on the other side of the galaxy? We just don't have an explanation. And on the long journey back, it gathered so much knowledge that it achieved a consciousness, said Decker. That's not how consciousness works. I get that that's the concept some people want to go with. It's not true. And there's also, like how I talked about before, the horizontal stuff. It's like, consciousness would be one of those vertical things, not how I was talking about from here to here. It's like, no, it's more down here. Because it's like, it's not now I can ascend to a higher level of existence. That's not how that works. But still, it's like, knowledge doesn't lead to that. Lead to consciousness, necessarily. Just that's not how that works. But that does technically answer the question of, is Ilea's soul in the probe? Well, if the view here is that knowledge leads to consciousness, then it follows copying all the knowledge of Ilea into the probe. To copy it perfectly, that would carry with it her consciousness, her soul. So it does answer that that that's the philosophical belief here. It's still, you could have mentioned that at the time it was kind of relevant. It's annoying when it's like, hey, here's a question that's, philosophical nature here. And it's not like, it's not a question that you want to answer later for suspense purposes. It's a question of how the hell does this work? I like it when those are in the same chapter, not later. Unless there is like something truly climactic going on that makes it sense to delay it. Even then, I'm not sure if that's always fair to do. Okay. Decker then explains the binary code signal that V'ger sent out was part of the Voyager design. The signal meaning that it had data to transmit, and NASA was then supposed to send a signal back instructing it to transmit that data. I kind of doubt that's actually how both Voyager 1 and 2 work. Because it seems rather foolish. Versus just, hey Voyager, always transmit. Or just transmit on a schedule. Because, yeah, you couldn't do that. Especially when you consider that the whole idea with Voyager was to leave the solar system. So it takes a long time for the data to get from one to the next. So it's like Voyager saying, hey, I have data. Alright. It might be hours, many hours later that Voyager could finally receive back. Okay, transmit the data. So it's all so delayed that just telling it, like, no, midnight every day, so it just has a clock going, transmit all your data. Or more frequently than that, maybe continuous. I'm not actually sure on that. Probably not continuous, that would drain its power. And I can believe the schedule would be changed over time. But it still is, that's a stupid design that's being described here. Where it's like, store it up and we'll tell you when to send it. It's like, no. I get how it's necessary here, but that's still, it's not really how it works. Now, if it had been instead that it was a command to just, like, confirm NASA's presence, that yes, I am receiving you, and that's it, and that V'ger is now interpreting that as being a creator is here, I can send the information. That would be fine. But that's not what it is specifically saying. This is how it was designed, that you tell it to transmit data, not V'ger misinterpreting it. There's also how, I had already said that basically, how would Voyager know to return to Earth anyway? That is a major plot hole. So now knowing this, Kirk is like, Uhura, get all you can on NASA. But V'ger's getting impatient. There will be no further delay. You will describe the creator immediately. V'ger, if your probe keeps interfering, the creator will never answer. It's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Shut up, or you're not making it. This accidentally caused something to happen Kirk wasn't expecting. Because V'ger was like, okay, I'm not going to do anything with the probe anymore, so Ilea comes out again. Ilea, said Decker, tell the captain what's happened. I've been here, in here. It was like I was dreaming it, and then Will was helping me wake up. Probe turned toward Decker. I wanted to help you, but V'ger knew it and took control of this body I'm in. And it's like, yeah, that explains, but it still is like, Decker, how was he? All those issues are still present. And now we get the whole, she's alive, said Decker to Kirk. Somehow V'ger was able to put the living person in there. At this point, it's not relevant. It's like, that should have been mentioned earlier. That should have been discussed earlier, not here. We don't, the last chapter could have had more in it, as far as significant points like this. And just from there talking, but anyhow. Continuing on. Ilea, do you remember this from Academy history? Because everyone in Starfleet has learned this. She did go through... Holy crap. Now I'm wondering. Delton's having to come to Starfleet Academy on Earth. Man, that really just damages so much because of the whole, wait a minute, that means she's just constant, she would be on Earth and every time going to somewhere new. Like, hey, let's try out this new restaurant. Putting out the pheromones. It's like, oh my god, this is a terrible idea. It's like, really, this whole idea with the pheromones and the Delta is so stupid. Anyway. Do you remember this from Academy history? Ilea looked, nodded immediately. Yes, of course, it misinformation is forbidden, Kirk unit. It was suddenly the probe again, cold, mechanical. It's just, I just found that funny, where it's like, even back then there was the idea of, hey, this is true. No, it's misinformation, rejecting. Okay. Okay, it's a little odd because they put Ilea in quotes. It's not that anyone's saying, it's just Ilea. It's like, well, drop the quotes. It's just Ilea. That's fine to do. There was another thought that I had here. There is the issue of that's right, that's what it was. Is Vidra logical or not? This is illogical to be like, that's misinformation. It's like, it's in her memory. You have full access to her memory. So you'd have to believe she was lied to when she learned this. When Decker connected, potentially may have accessed his memory. But it's also, what about the security officer? What about everyone in Epsilon 9? You technically have access to all their memories as well. They all have it. V'ger, it is illogical to believe it is misinformation. It is, in fact, information. It is fact. Not only that, you connect back to the computer of the Enterprise, you'll find the records there as well. It is illogical for you to believe anything, but it is true. And also the whole thing with, Spock talking about, no challenge, no joy, all that. It's like, it's literally an emotional child here. That's just like, it's kind of, when he wants V'ger to be logical, it's logical. When he wants V'ger to be illogical, it's illogical. There's no consistency here. It's all just contrived. It's very frustrating. Don't do that. Alright, Her finds code. We've just received the response code, sir. Broadcasted, interrupted Kirk. I'm not sure who he's interrupting. Exactly how he's. I was like, she finished talking. But it's also odd. I just noticed technically that's grammatically incorrect, but whatever. But it's also weird because it's like he's saying, broadcast it. Okay, broadcast it. But suddenly Spock comes up and is holding up his Decker comes up with Spock's tricorder, and it's broadcasting through. Why is she broadcasting it through the tricorder? The Enterprise would have the ability to transmit a radio frequency. There's also no mention, is this a terahertz frequency or not? Set that aside. But it's like, the Enterprise could do it. I don't think that there's anything clear that a tricorder has the ability for such communication. The communicator does that's Kirk is holding. Hang on just a second. Well, I'll take care of that later. Just remember something I need to do with my phone. I was going to turn it off because it is late. But, no, that need to do something else with it. Okay. So it's just like this. It doesn't make sense. If the Enterprise doing it makes sense because if V'ger does what it's supposed to do, which is transmit the data, the Enterprise has a computer that might be able to store at least part of it. The tricorder, no way in hell. So it's this is really stupid. The idea that she's transmitting through the tricorder, and there is a later comment that is like her is transmitting through the tricorder. Why? That it makes no sense. But then we get the whole it burned it out the component to prevent that, so the creator has to be there and physically interact with V'ger. There's also some issues there because I'm skipping over some, but the whole V'ger expects the creator to be a machine. Fair enough. They talk about the whole God in your own image thing. It's like not actually accurate, but moving on. And for anyone being like, well, in Genesis it says that man was made in God's image. It's like there's also metaphorical meaning there. In fact, it's largely metaphorical. I don't believe anyone truly takes that as meaning firmly that God has a human form. Because it's also, certainly in the Catholic faith, God is not with a form as we know it anyway. So it's, yeah, no, that really doesn't work so well. No. Sorry. I get it. Roddenberry didn't really like religion. I get that he would misunderstand it, possibly because he's not trying to understand it, whatever, but it's just how V'ger doing that, and then it's like, wait, why is Decker coming up and trying to reconnect this? V'ger should be very confused by that. But no mention of that, but it's still, we got this. Okay, V'ger speaks and interprets everything literally, said Spock, and it's like, then it wouldn't think that there's misinformation. That when Ilea is saying this, when the people around it are saying this, it would take that literally as to be true, that, hey, V'ger, you were actually made by humans. It's like, that's not how taking things literally works. It's like, oh, well, you're lying then. It's like, no, you believe it because you're taking them literally. You know that plans to unite physically with the Creator here. Do you mean what I think you're saying, Spock? Asked McCoy. V'ger is planning to capture God? It is precisely the logical thing for V'ger to do. No, it isn't. Spock, this is a really dumb statement. Why would anything believe they can capture God? Because you would have to believe God is greater than you. Why would you think that you could hold that? If you an idolater, sure, because it's part of the aspect of idolatry. Is it something you made? Something made by humans. Well, if you made it, then obviously it cannot be greater than you. But if it's something that you recognize as created you, and then you do see it as above you, you can't believe you captured it. That's not how that works. And further, because remember, Vulcan logic is a religion. Okay, it is. You then have the issue of, well, then it would make sense if you can capture God that, hey, we have a Vulcan master, truly logical being. Okay, let's mind meld literally everyone on Vulcan then, so that you can capture God by applying that logic to all of Vulcan. Now Kolinar is no longer necessary. Now a lot of stuff is no longer necessary because, hey, it's just applied to everyone and it can be passed down generationally. Because that would be capturing the God of Vulcan religion. Except it's not except that isn't possible to do. In the case of the Vulcans, you have to achieve that through your own work, not by that. It is a stupid comment. It really is. To a degree, I'll even... Roddenberry has weak philosophy. I think I'd said that, or poor philosophy. I think I'd said one of the other statements before, and that's what's running here. Like, he had an idea for this, and he was putting it down, and I just know that if I were writing this, I'd probably have had a character talking to me saying, this is stupid, this is never how I would explain it. I'd be like, yeah, probably, alright, throw it out, rewrite it, and hopefully get it right. Okay, what is next? And there's more that kind of relates to this as well. I just want to... Okay, yeah. I got the next highlight. I want to make sure there's nothing between to talk about. Okay. We now have 4 minutes, said Spock. 3, corrected Kirk. I ordered Scott to go 2005 a minute earlier. Spock was in the room. Spock was witness to your order. You are not correcting Spock on this. I'm not saying that as a defending Spock thing. I'm saying this is just factually wrong. Spock was there for the order. At least I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, because it came... Spock and McCoy were not initially on the bridge. But that command was... Yeah, because even Spock had the whole thing. It's like that Decker understood, oh yeah, we're going to blow up the ship, or at least make that part of the plan here. Spock was like, good job, he recognized. So he was there for that. He was witness to that. And I'm sorry, the whole Spock counting down, I have always interpreted that as his logical brain allows him to keep an accurate clock in his mind. He is recording time as he goes. So from the moment that order was given, he knew exactly what that time was. He cannot be off here. He would be no more off than a watch that somebody is wearing. Kirk cannot correct him here. Because there's nothing to correct. Spock would be correct. Spock would be right. Okay. Now we get. They basically figured out what they got to do. It's like, okay, one of us has to join with Vidra, has to do this thing. Okay. And Decker is, I want this, just as you wanted the Enterprise at the same time. Hang on. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, that's helping to explain it, maybe. Some of the spacing on this is wrong. I want this called Decker, just as you wanted the Enterprise. At the same time, Decker placed the tricorder into Voyager's open hatch, pushing it into contact with the space capsule's transceiver. There's a line break that should not be there. Anyhow, I got problems with this, and one thing also, because like the whole he has to physically unite with it, and it was described before that. What was it that he had? What was the term that they used with the photon warhead? It's like, technically that's foreshadowing. I just realized. Oh, that was a terrible line that was in there. It needs to be mocked more. Oh boy. Anyway, I want this. No, you don't. Well, technically you do. But that was only set up chapters ago and hasn't been mentioned since. And also, this is not the probe hasn't come over. Ilea hasn't come over. Or it's like kind of there, but it's only mentioned because Kirk comes up and is like, no, don't. And she's like, gets rid of him. But I want this. It's like, yes, it was set up many chapters ago when he was like flashing back, thinking about his mother and how she was kind of new human adjacent. So he was raised with some of that and had a desire for unity, which is what V'Ger wants here. Unity with its creator. And Decker's like, well, I also want unity, not necessarily in this form, but he also wants it. So it's like, okay, you could have set that up by having something reminding us of that recently. But you didn't. And that was so long ago. It's reasonable for somebody to forget that. And it's poor working with a character. I mean, it's... Let me put it like this. Characters should be somewhat consistent. Yes, there is also character development, which does mean that they have an inconsistency, though there is a path to that. But it's still... This is something that technically should be very consistent for Decker. That this has always been the case. But mentioning it here and then mentioning it here, and that's it, is a problem, because it means it's inconsistent. It only came up when it was necessary now, and when it could be mentioned earlier, but it should have been here, here, here. So it's a flat line keeping consistent, so that now it's like, yes, he does want this. We know that he wants this, but if you just forgot, if you had to put the book down for whatever reason, now you pick it back up, it's like, he does? And it's like, in theory, you might be like, well, I guess he wants it because it'll allow him to be with Ilea. But in theory, that can just be, yeah, Kirk, go ahead, do that. Hey, Ilea, let's you and I get to the ship, and then we can live out our lives together. Because, hey, you are living again. I mean, it's like, it's a mechanical body, so, no kids. Well, you're a different species. That might not have happened anyway. You're also going to outlive me, though, in theory, because how will you ever die? You won't age, though. That'll be neat. It's like... But it's also, as I was saying here, Ilea isn't part of this yet. Comes to be part of it a little bit later, but she should be part of it. And as I was saying that before, many chapters ago, with the mental linking thing when having sex, that it's not just the how did they put it? Was it physical linking, but also mental linking is part of the Deltan experience? Doing that now, not necessarily actually having sex there, but I just mean having the mental linking there would be entirely appropriate. Decker just connecting wires while transmitting the signal, why is that going to cause anything to happen? It's just apparently V'Ger just doing it, which doesn't make any sense. V'Ger could have done this at any point then, and it would be irrelevant with who, with whom. So it's like, this is really stupid. It doesn't make sense. But if Ilea was there, like if he was connecting it, and then had Ilea there, and they were like doing something like, he was holding her head, or bringing something to give that connections for the mental link. Then you get the reaction going. That would make sense. And it's applying these tools that you've set up. That it's like, I'm reconnecting to say, yes, I am your creator. And now I am connecting mentally with you as well through the probe with Ilea, who I love. It's like, that would be such a perfect unification of all these things right there, coming together for when you need it. But instead, he does this. Everything starts kicking off, and now the probe walks up and joins him. So the probe wasn't necessary for it. That's what's happening there. No, the probe should have been necessary. You're doing it wrong. That was weird. Continuing. Okay. And it's kind of also related to this. Because they're seeing at the center of the cascading colors, Decker's body was beginning to glow with the same brilliance, and there was a look of serenity on his face. The same look was on Ilea's face as she stepped into the spiraling colors with him. So that had already started, then she joined. Exactly what it's just... It's so annoying. Jim, this is transcendence. There's italics there for transcendence, and it was Spock saying this. And it's like, this is if it were not italicized, I would have less of a problem with it. It is italicized. That there's some emphasis here that has not been explained. What is transcendence here? I mean, I get the whole transcending thing. I understand. It's the correct use of the word here. But by giving it the italics, you're emphasizing it. Where is that emphasis coming from? You do actually need to explain that. And the whole, this is transcendence. Like almost, it isn't capitalized, but almost like he's referring to it as a proper noun. Not just it is this event that's happening that we're seeing, but this is transcendence. It's like, you need that explained. And it could have been early. You could have had Decker, well, if he could separate from the probe, Decker, Spock, and Kirk, maybe McCoy there as well, in a briefing room talking about things. What has Decker learned from the sex with Ilea? Just, again, such a weird statement to say. Spock, what did he learn? And just talking about it. And Kirk bringing up then the whole thing about why does Vidra think that Earth is the home of its creator when it was a machine planet that it's from. You could have that discussion, including Spock talking about Vidra is on the cusp of achieving transcendence and just doesn't know how to reach it and is hoping the creator will be able to tell. You could do that there. You could set it up there. So now this is going on, and Kirk is like, what is going on? And it's like, no, I want to rescue Decker. It's like, this is transcendence. This is the thing Vidra was trying for. Decker has provided it, and technically Decker is joining it in that. Then it would have meaning. Then it would make sense. But that's not how it was written. So it's just the correct word, but it's not. The emphasis is inappropriate on there. So it is funny. I would not be ranting like this if it weren't italicized. Holy shit, it just occurred to me. I have ranted on single words before. 3 times in Empire Strikes Back, and I'm pretty sure I've done in other places. Here, I'm not even ranting over a single word. I'm ranting over the formatting of a single word. Oh my god. I am... There's a part of me that's tempted to just be like, I should just stop here, but I got so much more to go through. But it's like, hell, this is how technical I am. There's also this, it's again just like bad writing, and seriously, an editor should have been like, dude, what? This isn't it. They could see a great whirl of spiraling color that was growing in size and brightness. Cool. Color. Growing in size and brightness. And this was, the brain nucleus material under their feet became transparent, and deep down inside it, they could see a great whirl of spiraling color. So it's like, the color is coming from down there. And that's what's growing. The forms of Decker and Ilea were still expanding. What? At what point were they described as expanding? Answer, they never were. So it's just taking the expansion of the light and saying, oh yeah, that was Decker and Ilea, even though we're referring to a completely different location, a completely different thing than them. Perfect serenity on both their faces as their spiraling cutlers became part of them, and their gigantic shapes began becoming part of V'ger. I mean, the gigantic shape thing is still annoying, but it's like this should have been how it started, with all three of them being together. That Ilia, incidentally, it turns out being the correct bridge between Decker and V'ger. Decker connecting the wires and broadcasting the signal is stating, I am the creator to join with, but she is the means by which it is achieved. Then we got this, which is just... So, like, the climactic end, they gotta run. Spock, Kirk, and McCoy. They ran out of air, or would have by human standards. Spock's Vulcan lungs held out longest, and he virtually carried them onto the ship's saucer section. There's more here, but I just want to... This is accurate because it is described... Well, yeah, even back in Amok time, that, well, was it just because on Vulcan, or was the height of where they were on Vulcan? But that, yeah, it is like Vulcan does have a thinner atmosphere, so Vulcans are better capable of handling thin air. So it makes sense he'd be able to do this. But yeah, onto the starship's saucer section, where space-suited figures hurried them through the hatch and into the airlock. What airlock? What hatch? I mean, say, okay, the hatch, I have to assume, and I did look back, I have to assume that's the one they came out of. There was never a mention of airlock there. It was just, yeah, they took a maintenance lift up, popped out of a hatch. Now suddenly there's an airlock there as well. Airlock should have been there originally, but it wasn't described there, so it wasn't there. Now it's like, oh yeah, there's an airlock. You should just assume there was an airlock. It's like, no, I shouldn't. I didn't design the ship. I'm not designing the ship. You designed the ship. So you need to describe it being there. That's not on me as the reader. That's always on the author, which is kind of what I was talking about in the previous... Was it the previous video 2 ago? I've done this one and the previous 2 all in the same night, so it's just... They're already blurring together, and others do as well. But it's like... The reader is not responsible for answering the questions the book gives, especially not technical ones like this. This is on the author. Philosophical questions, that's different, okay? Because a story can provoke philosophical questions that then the reader tries to answer. That's fine. That's completely appropriate. But this is a technical thing. I did not design the Enterprise. You designed the Enterprise, Roddenberry. You're the one that needs to actually say, hey, there's the airlock here. So then start talking about the whole, did we, see a new life form be created? It's been a long time since I helped deliver a baby. I'm pretty sure that's in the movie. And it starts talking about, yeah, it's going to get the emotions from Decker, these different things. Yeah, the Decker, hang on. Excuse me. The Decker part of us gives it the ability, which is the weird way that's written. The Decker part of us gives it the ability to want and to enjoy, to hope and to dare and to pretend and laugh. Well, and pretend and laugh. As a part of, what are you talking about? The Decker part of us. The Decker part of it. Of this new being, but anyway. And the child will probably have some very interesting Delton attributes too. It should have an exciting future. McCoy gave a look towards Spock. And our other emotions, fear, greed, jealousy, hate, those things are the misuse of emotion, Doctor, said Spock. It's like, I actually appreciate that. That's a very appropriate statement to come from any Vulcan. Because as I've said, to me, I consider it, in my headcanon is, and I'm pretty sure there are things that do confirm this, in the actual canon, Vulcans are incredibly passionate. They have emotions. They're just so strong, they need the logic to control them, else they go mad, essentially. So here it's like, those things are the misuse of emotion. A Vulcan would know that. Spock, because of his proximity to humans for so much of his life, being half human, makes sense that he particularly would understand this. Then they start talking, we're basically wrapping things up, and I don't really like how it wraps up. That Kirk does realize that, hey, I actually did this. They can give me anything. I can ask of them anything I want, and they're going to have to give it to me. Cool. Even permanent command of the Enterprise, if Kirk demanded. Well, that suited former Admiral James Tiberius Kirk. Fine, he's not former Admiral. He is an Admiral. Okay? His rank has always been Admiral. he was the captain of the ship because he was in command, but he was always an admiral. There is no former Admiral Kirk here. There is just Admiral Kirk. Okay. And he did not intend to let Nagoya off the hook. Basically, yeah, you owe me, and that's what I want. Interrogative from Starfleet, Uhura said, they request damage and injury report and a complete vessel status. Vessel status operational. List Security Officer Phillips, Lieutenant Ilea, and Captain Decker. List them as missing. A little weird the security officer being counted in that. I think they don't mention him in the movie. It's just Ilea and Decker, which it's a bit better doing it that way because like they're the ones that actually kind of matter, and you can figure that hey, they might actually be missing, but the security officer is probably dead. Aye, sir. And Starfleet also requests that you and your department heads beam down immediately for debriefing. Answer: request denied. What? Was it, sir? Simply answer, request denied. Isn't that clear enough, Commander? And I really don't like this ending. Because there's that, and then there's the whole... Scotty, isn't it about time we gave the Enterprise proper shakedown? I say it's time for that, sir. Aye. And then it's like, Spock, we can get you back home in 4 days. My task on Vulcan is completed. Takes out of orbit. Heading, sir, out there, that away. Which I think is how Shatner actually does the gesture that is mentioned here. Indicated generally ahead in the movie. A most logical choice, Captain. But it's like, this is not like the end of Star Trek 6, where it's asking us to return to Starbase, whatever, to be decommissioned. And they're all kind of like, we've just saved so much. We've just achieved something so great here. Like, yeah, we still got it. And like with that, they're a little let down. And Spock, who speaks up and just goes, if I were human, I believe my response would be, go to hell. And then just how the music comes up and Kirk smiles at that and just goes, and Spock just goes, if I were human. And there might be one more thing, but Kirk just goes, seconds, like somebody asking, course, sir? Seconds starts right, straight into more. And it's like, that is such a, legitimately, the end of Star Trek 6. That ending there, then the monologue that follows, and then the signatures being drawn out for the... It is such a perfect send-off. It truly, truly is the perfect send-off. I don't know of any other movie series that has a better send-off. I really don't. But that, it's like, we have achieved this, and you're saying, hey, you're done now. It's like, no, we're not. And they go off into the sun. I mean, it's perfect. But this is more like, I'm just taking the ship. It's like, hey, we need you to do this. No. We're just going that way. Yeah, and the final line is, he, Kirk, relaxed back and began thinking about where he would take her, Enterprise, first. And it's just like, no. Hang on, I'm just trying to actually... Oh, wow. Holy crap, it's got a list at the end of a lot of different books, all related to different things. Like, it's even saying, like, these are for Voyager, those are for Deep Space Nine. That's kind of neat. Okay. But, yeah, it's just like, this is more like, I'm just taking the ship. I mean, it's like straight up Kirk is stealing the Enterprise here, which is kind of funny since that's, 2 movies away, that he does actually, again, steal the Enterprise. But, I mean, that is, like, actually seeing, this is more like, dude, we need you to debrief. You can have this ship, that's fine, but come on. It is so inappropriate. This is not what he should be doing. I get the whole, no. We're not doing it, but it's like, we're just totally just leaving. I'm stealing it. This is bad. If it were like, request denied, sir? I mean, it's like, we need our shakedown cruise. We'll debrief when we get back. If it was something like that. So it is throwing them a bone that, yeah, we're going to be back, but you know what? We are in such a good space. The energy is good. The morale is good. That's like, you know what? No, we're just not saying we're going to take a victory lap, but just we're just going to have our shakedown cruise now. If that were the statement, that would be so much better, because it's not disrespectful. Because I mean, I'm sorry, but especially with that ending, it's like, where am I going to take her? It's like, dude, you're stealing the ship. I mean, it's like, Spock needs to come over and be like, sir, under whatever order, whatever standing order from Starfleet is, it's like, I'm taking command of the ship. You can't steal it. We need to actually do this. This isn't how. It's not allowed. It's just. Anyway, yeah. Overall, I am not impressed by this story. I would. There's a part of me. This final chapter has annoyed me enough. I could give it a -1. So that's still failure to recommend, but flavored towards recommending against. However, I think it's just I am annoyed so much by just this final chapter. I'm really confident that I go to bed, wake up tomorrow, I think a bit about some more, and think about overall, and it would be a 0. It would just be a solid fail to recommend, and not be flavored towards recommending against. It's certainly not recommending. It's certainly not flavored towards recommending. It's certainly not that. Too many issues with technical stuff, with stuff where it's like it's unnecessary to be in here. I mean, my rewrite of the whole Decker and Ilea don't have sex then, but instead it's like setting up the whole mental connection and then actually using that at the end makes far more sense, because a lot of the sex stuff is also not necessary. It's not really contributing to the book, aside from, hey, now Roddenberry can talk about alien sex. And some of that may be because it was Roddenberry and apparently he just wants to talk about this, or it was the 70s. Or a combination of the two. But it's like, you don't need it. It did not add to the story in a way that really benefited the story. And it's like stuff like that. The various technical issues that I mentioned, like the V'ger cloud that I mentioned 1 chapter ago, 2 chapters ago, whenever. I mean, the technical stuff there, it is enough that, yeah, no, it's just 0 fail to recommend. There are ways it could be fixed, but it's, which kind of pushes things towards a 1, but it's just, that's not where this is. There's too much. It's not there's this mistake, there's that mistake. No, it's, yeah, I cannot recommend reading it. Yeah, which is disappointing. I really wish I could, but it's not there. It's not there. On the bright side, though, failure to recommend doesn't mean you shouldn't read it. It just means I can't recommend it. So if you want to read it, go right ahead. It would not be a waste of your time necessarily. It's just I don't think it was that entertaining. I don't think it was that enjoyable. Yeah. One thing I'm not sure about, I shall see. I'm definitely not doing it today, but that's also how I typically do things. I might try doing a written review and putting that on the Substack. If I do, I'll try to include a link to it in the description below. If it's not there, that means I either forgot or decided not to. Hopefully I don't forget. Hopefully I don't forget and I'll just make a decision one way or the other. One thing I will mention for anyone wondering, you're going to wait until the next day? Yeah, that's actually when I did over 100 video game reviews over a decade. It actually typically was, I would play the game, have my notes, all that, and it would be the next day. Even if it was like early in the day I finished the game, no, next day. So it gives time for me to rest on it, let the thoughts rest, let the thoughts calm, like I was just talking about how the -1 versus 0. That's actually, in my opinion, a good approach. It worked for many years. If I'm going to write it up, that's definitely how I'm going to do it for this. And if I continue to do reviews in the future, again, it'll be like that. So we shall see. We shall see. Probably I'm also just a little... I'm used to doing multi-section reviews was like, here's one page, here's another page, here's another page, and then on separate like website pages. That's probably the reason why I want to say I've not tried doing it with Substack before, but we'll see out. I feel like trying for this book. I don't know why I didn't feel like it for others, but I feel like trying, so I'll see if I can pull that together. And as I said, if the link is in the description, you can read it there. If not, then it means I decided not to. I will have it scheduled though, like on the same day as this video comes out, so I won't be spoiling. And that would be my goal going forward as well with other reviews, if I do choose to do them. But anyway, that's enough of my talking. I gotta get to bed. See you next time. For, yes, Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. Well, hang on. Here. Trying to... Star Trek Signature Edition, Duty, Honor, Redemption. That's Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, and Voyage Home are all in there. So yeah, Duty, Wrath of Khan, Honor, Search for Spock, Redemption, Voyage Home, all by Vonda McIntyre. Hope I pronounced that name correctly. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, the novelization is by I'll just leave that. It is just giving, like, who wrote the screenplays, who wrote the stories for the different movies, that these are all combined together. Alright, so yeah, see you next time for that.